Here's how I got top 8 at the Standard Vanguard World Championships with an unfinished Rogue deck. Like, I literally went 5-1 in Swiss before being knocked out of top 8 by the eventual world champion. I used the beloved Orfist Regis and turned its early rush aggression to the max. Let's start off with a little intro first though, since I haven't posted in a long time. Howdy y'all, my name's Patrick, and I was the second place player in the BCS Regionals for Vancouver. You may also remember me from the fun Ariana Grande headphones in my World Finalist profile picture on the Bushy Roads website. Anyways, this season was the first time I ever topped the regional BCS event for Vanguard, so this was also my first time ever qualifying for Worlds. Since I'm in Vancouver and Worlds was in California this year, it was relatively cheap to attend, so I had to go. So to ensure my deck was ready, I made sure to practice extensively. Not 10 times, not 20 times, not 30 times, but 2 whole times. 12 hours before Worlds started. Yeah, I had literally never fought Youthberk before until I flew to California and begged my buddy Bailey to playtest against me in his hotel room. Funnily enough, I had never even playtested with that version of the deck before I flew to California either. But shockingly enough, I guess it was enough practice to help me reach top 8. Now I'm about to show you what the deck looks like, and normally this is the part where people quickly screenshot the list and make a run for it. But I implore you not to do that, because it's literally incomplete and has an unconventional playstyle, and I don't want y'all blindly marching around with this messy build. So stay in your seat after I show the list so I can explain how the deck works and what I'd replace to optimize it. Now, here's the grand reveal of my top 8 Orfist deck, titled Combine Rusher, I Hardly Know Her. Yeah, personally, I thought that name was hilarious. Now, this is the part where you look at my deck list and go, why on earth is there only one Combine Rusher that's not even in the right deck? And don't worry, this wouldn't be the first time my deck list choices got called out for being weird.
You tried deviating from the strategy to run Bitcoin.
So now's the part where I tried to defend myself on why my list even looked like that in the first place. So after I got second place in regionals, I was thinking about Worlds, and I knew that Youthberk would be the most popular deck there. And as great as it would be to just jump on the hype train and play Youthberk too, I really didn't want to dump that much money into a single deck. So I tried thinking about what other, cheaper deck I could bring instead that would still have a solid matchup against Youthberk. And then I came across this tweet saying that Orfist actually got second place at a WGP in Japan recently. And I thought, this could hold some potential. After all, how could Youthberk murder me with Tempest if I just overwhelmed them with attacks and steamrolled them immediately? So I looked for the second place list, thinking I'm just gonna copy this and bring it to Worlds. Until I saw this guy, Combine Rusher, the bane of my wallet's existence. I was too cheap to buy a playset, but I didn't let that deter me from playing the deck. I had enough money to buy one whole Combine Rusher, so I thought, I'll buy one, then just make a few tweaks to replace the missing 3 copies from the deck. So I did. I literally just copied this list, then swapped out the remaining cards for Techians and Thumbarinos, and I removed one Eclipsed Moonlight too, because I thought 3 was a bit too much. I did originally think that I could run Combine Rusher in the right deck to guarantee getting him in my drop zone with my Soul Blasts. But after seeing some people rave about the benefits of Cubicia's 5k buff, I decided to keep the right deck the same too. Now let's talk about how the deck works. Basically, the goal is to kill the opponent before they have the chance to do anything. And that means swinging 3 times on your first attack with early grade 1 attackers and praying that they don't get a defensive trigger. And once you reach grade 3, just go absolutely crazy and swing 5 times with the help of Nevoria. So admittedly, this approach isn't foolproof, but the added element of surprise was super helpful, since this deck wasn't really expected to top at Worlds. And with Youthberk's whole gimmick of needing grade 3 Revel Dress units in hand, this made it a lot easier to get damage through, since they can't really guard with them. Now that Worlds is over, I've had some time to think, and I honestly really enjoyed this aggressive playstyle. And to double down on this approach, here's what my revised version of the deck would look like. So let's review the cards in detail. Starting with the right deck, we've got the Ava starter, to trick people into thinking we play that deck. We've got Raudus, who searches for an order when placed. We've got Cubicia, who buffs a unit by 5k when you play an order. And here's our boss unit. 4 copies of Orfist Regis. When placed, he plays an order for free, either from your hand or your drop zone. And when he attacks, you can counterblast 1 and discard 1 to call a shadow token for every 2 cards in your order zone. He also gains gains 5k for each shadow token called this way as a fun little bonus. We also have 4 Navorias who gain 2k for each of your orders and calls a shadow token for free when he's retired, so you can get an extra attacker when you call a shadow token over him. We've got 2 Tectians who search for an order from the top 5 cards of your deck when he's discarded, so you can guarantee your orders more. Speaking of orders, let's take a closer look at those too. We've got 4 copies of the grade 2 order, that's Soul Blast 1 to draw a card. We've also got 4 copies of the grade 3 order, that's Soul Blast 2 to give 5k to shadow tokens when they're played. And we've got 1 copy of Eclipse Moonlight, that Counterblast 1 to call a shadow token when played. And that adds up to 9 orders in total. Then we have 4 Thumberinos that can give a shadow token an extra 15k power when boosting, but it sacrifices the call and draws a card after that battle. And we have 4 Tagula that soul charges 1 if you have 1 order, or soul charges 2 if you have 2 or more orders. And if you have at least 2 orders, you can also Soul Blast 1 to transform it into a shadow token. And we have 3 perfect guards and 1 Elementaria so we don't die. And lastly, for triggers, we keep it simple: 4 heals, 7 crits, and 4 draws. Now for some general tips with using the deck. First, make sure to discard at least 1 order for your right deck cost, so you can revive it with the Orfist Regis effect for free. I personally prefer to discard the grade 3 order, since it has a heavier cost of 2 Soul Blast, but if you don't have that in hand, try to get at least 1 order in there before turn 3. Discarding Tectian for your right cost is good as well, especially during your first turn, since it can help thin your deck before searching for an order with Routus. Also, as a general rule of thumb, when searching for an order with Routus, look for Eclipse Moonlight so you can play it on turn 2 for an extra attacker. Another tip is that if your opponent tries to attack your rear guards on turn 1 or 2, don't be afraid to try protecting them, so you can keep rushing your opponents down and not lose your early attackers. Another thing to remember is that Kagula's effect makes her flexible for both early and late game. She can be played on turn 1 or turn 2 as an attacker, and from turn 3 onwards, she can transform into a shadow token that can still hit the Vanguard on its own. And lastly, make full use of Cubicia's 5k buff. If my opponent is on grade 1, I like to call a grade 1 attacker, then call a shadow token, and buff that shadow token to 20k power so it can still hit over a damage trigger. If my opponent is on grade 2 though, I still call a grade 1 attacker and a shadow token, but I buff the grade 1 instead, so it can reach 13k power and still hit an opponent's grade 2 10k Vanguard unboosted. And that wraps up today's deck profile. It's super fun to play Orfist, so I highly recommend trying it out and making your own tweaks to the deck. And if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like the video and subscribe, because your support would really mean a lot to me. I was originally planning to talk more about what the Californian Worlds experience was like, but I didn't want to clog up today's deck profile. So let me know if you'd like to hear more about that, or if there's any other types of content you'd like to see. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.